All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. We're excited to be able to introduce Sherpa platform to the communities here in Illinois. So thank you so much for everybody for attending here today. And we will try and go through everything and try and introduce you to Sherpa and just kind of let you know what we're doing, helping out communities all throughout the US and answer any questions you might have on your mind as you learn more about the platform. I know you've been getting some emails from us just introducing it to the state as we get started here in Illinois. So this is a good opportunity for you to be able to ask any questions that may have come up already and be able to see a little bit more about the Sherpa platform. So let's go ahead and get started. So first of all here, let me introduce myself. So I am Chris Lukenbill. I'm the co-founder of Sherpa. Usually we have Drew with us as well. He's our sales manager. He's the one that's going to be reaching out to most of you. Unfortunately, he's out sick today, so I'll have to cover his portion of the webinar. Just to give you a quick update here on the logistics of it, we're going to try and keep this pretty quick. It'll be under 30 minutes, so we'll be able to get back to everything that we're doing here. But at the same time, if you have any questions throughout this, feel free to use the QA portion of it here. We have some questions from previous webinars that we'll cover as well, but definitely make sure that you ask any questions that you might have throughout this. Also, don't hesitate to reach out after the meeting if you have any questions. We're always happy to connect, be able to share more about the program with you. Just to give you a quick background here, Sherpa actually got started here with Minnesota and Wisconsin as the first two states that we started promoting this out to. We're rapidly approaching 100 customers in those two states. And then earlier this month, we just announced the co-op program for Arkansas tourism. So we're really excited about sharing Sherpa with more communities throughout Arkansas as well. And of course, now Illinois, as we're starting to move into your state. So let's take a look at what Sherpa is. So to help me with that, I'm going to just jump here to give you a quick intro here. So, really, we're the fastest growing DMO platform, and we're really built around targeted user-generated content. So to go into that a little bit further, we're an online platform that DMOs use to be able to create targeted user-generated content, and we connect these DMOs to both paid content creators in their local community members to be able to create really diverse and authentic content for all of their marketing channels. That's the important thing that we like to highlight here. And then how does this help you? So a couple of things with that. First of all, allowing you to be able to find those content creators really helps you to connect and coordinate with those content creators in your area, both for those paid collaborations and then also for those local community members to be able to help build content, really be able to help them share their stories through the adventures that they can create and then share through your marketing channels. So we'll get into a little bit more on that as well. And then the other thing here is this is all creating content through experiences. So we have full experiences that are being created that really help highlight both the businesses and attractions in your area. So that's another really big important piece of it, is getting those businesses, those attractions, those experiences all pulled together. And then you can really think about this as just really great content that you're able to share in all of your marketing channels. So we'll go through a full adventure, see what an itinerary looks like. But the thing that I like to point out on that always is that it's really the content that you're able to use to be able to share in all of your marketing channels. And that's what's important about all of this. So with that, let's talk a little bit more about targeted user-generated content. So first of all, why does UGC matter? So I think it's pretty common here. Everybody's been hearing about it here in all of their different DMO trade shows and all of the different educational meetings that we've been going to, that for a while now, that user-generated content is really more important than ever for marketing. We know that because people are looking for really authentic ways to be able to explore communities. They're looking for what are those off the beaten path types of experiences, but then also what are those experiences of people who aren't necessarily speaking from the brand standpoint, but just speaking from other travelers that are like me. And that's an important thing to be able to provide, is that user-generated content that helps to be able to connect people to your community. And this really allows, at the end of the day, for more diverse content to be able to resonate with a much larger audience. And that's such an important thing to be able to have that. And then finally, it really really increases that engagement. So really higher engagement rate throughout all of the different channels, right? So whether that's social media, even people using your visitors guide or your website, that user generated content is important for all of those different pieces. A lot of times we just think about it on the social media side of things, but that UGC can be so important in all of our different marketing channels. And then the second part of this, why targeted user generated content? So we always think about user generated content a lot of the times from different social platforms that we're able to grab content from. But the really important thing about targeted user generated content is this is what's going to really allow you to save your time to be able to get more content that's really highlighting the pieces that you want to be able to highlight within your community. So that's, the seasons, the events, the locations that you really need more content created around. We always know that we have our busiest seasons, that we're filled with all different people in our community, and we can't really fit more travelers into our community at those times. But if we could start evening that out and start bringing those people into maybe some of those shoulder seasons, that's where this targeted user generated content really shines. What are the things that we want to highlight when we maybe don't have as many people are already creating content because there's not as many people there? This is where the targeted user generated content comes in to be able to focus on those locations or those times when we really need more content created. And then the other thing with that is, what's being created there. So you're not just scrambling for the right photos that you want to be able to highlight your community with. You already have those ready to go. So that's an important piece, both with user generated content and the targeted aspect of it as well. So let's go into a little bit more detail with all of that. So now that we've talked about that, let's kind of talk a little bit about what we have as far as content already. So, ultimately, we can help you get content, great content for all your marketing channels. This is something that really easy to integrate into your website, include as part of your social media strategy, all the different platforms that you use, and really help with all of that marketing materials. We have great examples of people using it in the visitor's guide, in flyers that they create, in all of the different ways that they like promoting their community, even newsletters that they send out to their audiences. So you see here that we have a ton of content throughout all the different states that we're in already. So, 25,000 photos, over 6,000 businesses highlighted already. And then when we talk about Illinois alone, we already have over 1,000 photos in over 200 locations that are being highlighted in Illinois. So it's already off to a great start, but we know as soon as we get started connecting with these communities like yourselves, that's a great way to be able to increase that extremely quickly. So usually at this point, I would hand it over to Drew so that he can go over a little tour of what it looks like, but I'm gonna go ahead and take that for now. So let me go ahead and share my other screen here. So let me get into it. Boom, boom, boom. Oh, get back to it. We'll jump back to that side as well. All right, so let me walk through what this is. We talked a lot about UGC, talked a lot about Shrpa on its own here, but let me walk through what an adventure actually looks like and then how you're going to be using this content. So as we talked about here at the beginning, we're putting this all into experiences, all these into itineraries, adventures that people can be able to explore. And we're going to walk you through what that looks like on the platform here. But the thing that I want you to keep in mind is that these are just how we put all of this together. And there's reasons why itineraries is a great way to be able to do that. But the thing that I don't want you to lose is the fact that you're able to use all of this content that's being created, the photos that you see, the descriptions that you see in all of your different marketing channels. It's that content that's really the valuable piece at the end of this, of course, in addition to those engaging itineraries that people discover as well. So with any of our itineraries, we have the same kind of look and feel to it, where we have beautiful photos to be able to try and engage people and bring people in with those cover photos. We have the titles to be able to give them a quick idea of what we're talking about here, what we're going to be looking for here. This what to expect. This can be all the way from, like we see here, a few lines all the way up to a few paragraphs, giving us a little bit more detail about what this adventure is that we're looking to experience here. Then we have the destinations. So we highlight some of those destinations that we'll be seeing along this itinerary. And then we also have who created it. So who created it is a great way to be able to give us just a little bit more of an expectation about what type of perspective this is coming from. Because if this is a young family, an individual like we have here, or maybe a retired couple, all very different ways of experiencing locations. And as you'll see when we get into the locations here, it's very unique to each one of these creators as far as way they create content. And then what to bring down the left-hand side here below that, we have how long it's going to take, how far we're traveling, and how many stops we're going to be going on. In addition to that, we have a little bit of a map. You'll see more of a map once you jump into the adventure as well to explore. And then some of the adventure photos, which again, we're going to see more of that once we get into the adventure. So let's jump into explore. We click on this let's go, and we're off to our first stop. Here on our first stop, we see a description down the left. We see photos down the right. The thing that I like to point out with all of this is unique to every single one of these creators and their experiences. So you might be going to Inspiration Point Trailhead on multiple different adventures, but as a traveler here, the beautiful thing that I see is this particular creator's experience here, right? So we're getting very authentic content that they're creating just for this adventure. This isn't some kind of Google business listing, information about it. This is very unique to this creator, in addition to the photos that are being created as well. And now for you as a community, the advantage of that is every time somebody creates content in a location, even if somebody's already created content there, you're getting more content, more descriptions, more photos that are highlighting those locations. So really great things about both of those. We're going to jump to our next stop. The other thing that I like to highlight here is that this is actually linking off to the Google business listing. So if you want to see when this place is open, if you want the navigation to get right to this location, if you're bringing this up on your cell phone or even on your PC here, it's a great way to be able to see that content from there as well. And then again, the other thing that we like to highlight is we're at a museum here. We were at a trailhead previously. Now we're heading to a winery. We see we're going to take quite a jaunt here over into a lake. So we see a lot of different content that we're highlighting, right? So this is the beautiful thing about an itinerary format, is that we have all these different locations that we're highlighting, and it can bring in all different sorts of content, whether it's places to eat, places to shop, places to visit, places to hike, a lot of different type of content because of the fact that we're coming in with an itinerary. The other beautiful thing about this isn't a review site. We're not Yelp, we're not TripAdvisor, we're not trying to, break everything down to just a thumbs up, thumbs down, or a star rating. We're talking about it more about what do people love to do, right? So we're only highlighting the places we like to go. We're only highlighting the reasons for why we like to go to these places. So it's a very business positive content, which is a great way to be able to do that. So now we're going to head over the summary. We'll see all the other adventures that we can see from the area. We'll see all the other adventures we can see from this community. So you see Shawnee Forest County our country is already one of our partner communities there in Illinois, and you're going to see beautiful content throughout their page that they're able to use in all of their marketing channels. So that's the thing that I like to highlight with these itineraries. Let's go ahead and jump back so we can talk about how we get this content created. So the important thing about this, let me just jump back to that slide there. How do we get that content created? So there's a few different ways. One, like we mentioned, we already have, already 200 locations that are highlighted with over 1,000 photos. That's quite a few adventures that are already highlighting Illinois already. So you may already have content being highlighted in your community, and that's going to happen because it's organic content being created by creators throughout your area. In addition to that, you can also engage with those local community members to be able to create content. So we have ways to be able to do that. And then finally, what we're highlighting here is collaborations. This is the way that you can work with those regional content creators, people who are already amazing at creating content, who are experienced with creating content on this platform, who would love to be able to create content for your community. Here's the way that you're able to do that. You started off by filling out just a really simple form about what you're looking for this collaboration. You send it out there and people will apply to do these collaborations. And the way that you're able to do that is you're able to review what they're, why they would love to do this collaboration, more information about their interests, their gear, who they travel with, and then all of the other adventures that they've created. So you see what kind of photos they take, what kind of descriptions do they write, which is a really great way to figure out what kind of creator you want to work with. And then you choose that creator that you want to work with, and they're able to take all of that information, travel to your community, experiencing it firsthand, and then they use all of that experience to be able to create 4 amazing adventures highlighting your community for each one of the collaborations that they do. So we have all different packages to be able to take care of that, to be able to get content created for your community. But the beautiful thing about that then is you know what your costs are right up front at the beginning of this. We take care of all the paperwork. We simplify the process of finding creators for you, so you don't have to do all that hard work of trying to track down and do that comparison of who you want to work with. It's just a really beautiful way to be able to do that. And we've been finding a lot of success with communities, like we mentioned, both in Minnesota, Wisconsin, and further than that. So let's go ahead and jump to the next screen here, where we talk a little bit more about the creators and the content they've created. So, here are some of the actual creators that we work with on the Shrpa platform. So people that could possibly be creating content for your community. And like we mentioned, it really streamlines that whole process of no more negotiating prices, no more of questioning how the content's going to be packaged or where you're going to be able to use it or where you can use that. Again, this is content that you can use in all of your marketing channel. And this is really easy to be able to get that set up and rocking, like we talked about already. So excited to be able to get you in there and trying that out. And then again, we streamline that whole process at the end of it, where we take care of the payment, even the 1099 forms at the beginning of next year. So you don't have to worry about any of that type of stuff. So, and then at the bottom of the slide here, we see some of the beautiful photos that are taken by our creators. And that's just 5 of the like we mentioned, over 25,000 photos that are on the site already, highlighting the communities that they're able to use in all of their marketing channels. So with that, the thing that we really want to think about here is, what would you have a creator highlight in your community? That's where we really want to leave this off. We have the information here that you can contact Drew to be able to get set up with your community. So whether you want to email him, give him a call, feel free to do that. At this point, would love to cover any questions, kind of see where we're at here with everything. It looks like we've been keeping it on time here. So if there's any questions, feel free to put those in the QA. And I will start answering some of the questions that we have coming in through the QA, but I'll also answer before those some of the questions that we've had from other webinars that we've done as well. So the first one that's come up here is, really, does this work on my phone? And that's something that, of course, mobile friendly is always important for all of our travelers. And yes, this is a mobile first site. We have all of this content being used super easily throughout mobile as well. So you'll see that coming up there. It acts much like a web app, or I should say much like an app on their phone, where people just feel like it's an app and they're able to click right through there. The beautiful thing about that, though, is isn't an app, so they don't have to download a new app to be able to travel to a new community, right? So they're able to find this content right off your site, be able to navigate right into it and use all of it no matter what type of device they're using. The second thing here is, where can I use this content? That's come up in the past as well. So and as I mentioned earlier, you can use this content in any of your marketing channels, but I really want to drive that home, because that's an important question, is what is the rights to be able to use this content? You, as a partner community, you have the rights to be able to use this in printed format, in newsletters, in your website, on your social media, anywhere that you're doing any of your marketing. And that's really the important thing, that, again, we walk through that itinerary, but all of those pieces of that itinerary, you're able to use that in all of your marketing channels. So use that content everywhere. And we have beautiful ways to be able to use that. We have site integrations that we have both through the adventures, to be able to highlight all those adventures, so you can have adventures showing up on your website. We also have beautiful photo walls that you can use to be able to show that. And actually, that's something I'd love to be able to show here as well, bringing up some of those photo walls that you can show off in your community. So let me bring some of that up here to be able to show that in just a bit. I should have had this prepped and ready to go ahead of time, but bring it back over here. Authentic user-generated content. That's a great way to be able to highlight it. We have some of this. You'll be able to navigate right to this off of our homepage, where you'll be able to see more about how communities use Shrpa. Some examples here. We have this site integration that we're showing right here, so you can do this on your website as well. And when you navigate in through that, you navigate into it and you use these adventures just like we were showing them before. The other beautiful thing with that is you have your information co-branded with it as they go through it, right? So they'll know that they're coming from your site, and they'll be able to get to the rest of your content from there as well. In addition to that, we just released this new photo wall site integration, which is a beautiful way to be able to highlight all of the photos from your community. So we think that's a really great way that you're going to be able to really liven up your website, be able to show more great photos from your communities, which is a great way to be able to see that. And we see that we're already seeing Southern Illinois community content here already. And in addition to this, now you're able to navigate in and be able to see those full experiences from those communities as well. So great ways to be able to see all of this content. So let's jump back to our webinar as well. All right, so before we get to those, any additional questions, the other thing that we have here is, how can I make my own adventures? Or is this just for the creators? That's also something that comes up here, is who can create this content? So creating this content, like we mentioned, you can invite your community members in so they can be creators. You can work with those content creators that we mentioned who are already really well versed on creating this content. They can be your creators. Or you can also create your own content. So this is something that's much easier than creating a blog post, for example. Walking through there, and if you jump into a demo with Drew, he'll show you exactly how it's done. Super easy to be able to create that content, where you add in your summaries, you throw in some of those photos that you've already taken. Really straightforward to be able to create this content. So yes, you can definitely create content highlighting your community, and we see quite a few communities doing that, creating content off of the content that they already have to be able to help highlight that content and make it engaging through these itineraries, through these adventures that really allow people to be inspired by that content, but then also really informed as far as how they can go travel to the community on their own, right? So, and then the last question that's coming up here in previous communities as well is, how do Sherpa photo galleries compare to CrowdRiff on a website? So you might be familiar with CrowdRiff and what they do with some of their photo wall integrations. Very similar in the way that they work on the front end of it, as far as being able to organize what content shows up. You can have a load more functionality that continues to load more adventures below it. Very similar to the way that we work, as far as the way that that looks and the way that feels. The difference there is really where the content comes from. CrowdRiff, as you know, that comes from social media platforms, where it's bringing other people's content in that are highlighting your community. And so for our content, it's coming right from these adventures. So it's content that not only is highlighting your community, but then also linking back to more of the content in your community. So instead of linking off to, somebody else's Instagram page that has maybe one thing of your content, and then everybody, content from all over the place, with Sherpa's content, you actually see a photo gallery, I should say a photo wall, that brings up all of your content. And then when you click into it, you see more adventures from your area and more content from your area. So it's really a great way to be able to keep your travelers engaged with your content and finding more adventures from your area. So, well, with that, I think that really wraps up the Q&A portion of it. Like we mentioned, if you have more questions, feel free to contact us at any time. Let us know how we can help you out. We would love to be able to work with your community. And I appreciate you taking the time to be able to learn more about what we're doing here at Sherpa. And we'll be sure to have this available for you afterwards as well. Thank you again, and have a great rest of your day. Take care.